On this episode of Supply Chain Today with Ralph Henderson, we're going to talk about the future, augmented reality, spatial computing, artificial intelligence, and labor in the material handling and supply chain industry. Get ready, it's pretty bright. Welcome back to Supply Chain Today with Ralph Henderson. Today I'm joined by Brian Federal, a futurist, and we are talking about things that relate to disruptive technologies, how that relates to labor, and then the different items within that matters to the material handling and supply chain space, like spatial computing, augmented reality, artificial intelligence. Who knew we were going to be talking about this stuff just a few short years ago? Brian, welcome.
It's good to be here, Ralph.
Thanks for coming back. Hey, listen, those are all words and acronyms and vernacular that I don't know that this space thought it was going to hear anytime soon. Mm-hmm. Can you just maybe help us with an overview of what all of that means and how it relates to this industry?
Well, if you go back and you look at augmented reality, it really came out of the Air Force because you basically had a fighter pilot would have a helmet on. And I mean, the F-35, which is the most expensive military project in history, just the helmet cost $400,000.
Wow.
But what happens is they have a field of view. So what you want to do is get information on there so they get a lot of information really quick. Actually, Descartes created the graph. So let's say that we were graphing out the temperature in Bangor, Maine, and we were graphing out the temperature in Miami to see the difference. And they were two colored lines. If I wrote all those numbers down and handed it to you and told you, that'd be one thing. Now, if I showed you a graph of that,
you get it.
2 seconds, you get it. So it's similar to that, where you get the information and you're getting the actionable information, which is actually what you're looking for in a manufacturing or logistics plan also. Right. You want actionable information. How many guys could we find right now that said, if I get another report, I'm going to lose my mind?
Exactly.
Because really there was one paragraph out of 10 reports that actually had actionable information they really needed.
Well, and you're touching on something that's so near and dear to my heart. In working with executives in forums and summits with Omni-Channel Productions, one of the things I hear all the time is, I need to know how I can use the information that you're providing in this program and apply it to my organization and my process. So let's talk a little bit about that as it relates to disruptive technologies and labor, since those two things seem to be the top two things that we're thinking about right now in this space. Help us to understand how those two things can come together and we can have actionable things that we can do.
There's several different things. If one wants to look at these disruptive technologies for their business, they really need to dive into their entire digital footprint and really look at what that looks like. The first thing they need to be concerned with is they need to be concerned with making sure it's safe, making sure it's contained, making sure somebody can't hack in through small little devices, because now there's going to be trillions of devices that are connected to the internet, right, which opens up a lot more possibility for people.
Well, which is another concern for people when they get into this sort of thing, yes, right, is absolutely, just security. You know, you have safety within your distribution center. Obviously, that's important for your people, but yep, then you also have security, you know, within the data, and you do have to be concerned about that.
Yes.
So listen, we're going to take a break. I really appreciate it, and I know this is a fascinating topic for everyone out there. We're going to talk more about it. You ready for that?
Yep.
Okay,
sure
we'll be right back.
Thank you, Ralph.
You have a great product. It's better than your competitors, so why doesn't it sell better? Your competition has great name recognition. Why don't people know who you are? If you want to have the market share your competitors have, you need to let people know who you are. You have a story the market needs to hear. But how do you cut through all that noise out there? A goldfish has an attention span of 9 seconds, but your customers will only spend 8 looking at your site. If they don't see something interesting, they're gone. So give them something interesting. Video can capture the imagination of your customers and tell your story in a way nothing else can. And it can keep your customers' attention for minutes instead of seconds. We can help you craft your story to be irresistible to the market.
Welcome back to Supply Chain Today with Ralph Henderson. I am joined by Brian Federal, a futurist, and we're talking about, of all things, disruptive technologies. One of the things I hear all the time is, I need to know how I can use the information that you're providing in this program and apply it to my organization and my process. So let's talk a little bit about that as it relates to disruptive technologies and labor, since those two things seem to be the top two things that we're thinking about right now in this space. Help us to understand how those two things can come together and we can have actionable things that we can do.
And let's face it, robotics is going to take the place of a lot of employees, moving things it already has in logistics. If you look at some of the logistics, there's not a lot of people around, there's a lot of robots around. And so robotics will continue to grow exponentially. And what's happening with the augmented piece is you've got all that data. That data is actually laying framework for you to move right into robotics because you will have already done the work. A really wonderful piece of software that I was looking at the other day, what it does is it is totally built to take somebody in your organization that's not typically, tech savvy. Let's say Bob's getting ready to retire. You can take Bob for a month and have him do everything he does with these glasses on. It records everything, and he can sit there and verbally talk to whoever's doing this next job, where they can legacy leave this information.
See, that's another great application for disruptive technology.
That's a really good one right there.
It is fantastic because the struggle right now with the baby boomers exiting stage left at an exponential rate is what's walking out the door. Well, obviously all of their experience in addition to their contacts and what have you, but being able to use disruptive technology to at least retain some of that so that we can keep that experience in-house, when we need it for the future, and to train our people. I think that's a great example.
Yeah, it really is. It's astounding what you can do with it. Yeah. But it does take time to set up. If a company's going to get into it,
you got to invest in it.
I would advise them to get a group together with their, some of the folks at the company and sit down and, start having a meeting, look at different things and try to find the low-hanging fruit.
Yep.
What can we do that's going to give us the best ROI in this technology the fastest?
Right.
And where are we having problems, and how could this technology be applied to this particular problem?
Well, I can tell you, I've been in this space for 29 years and running omnichannel productions for the last 11. And what we've talked about here in just a few short minutes is something that is very powerful and very applicable to all the people in this space. I appreciate you bringing that to the table here today. And it's why I love talking to you and hearing about what you've got going on. Thank you for being here very much.
Thanks for having me.
Have a wonderful year.